Good evening. Thank you, Suzanne, for inviting me. I'm looking forward to reading with Kathy this evening, and I saw that sheet of paper, Murder, Madness, and Mayhem, and I thought it was a book description. Easily could be, I guess. And I'd never spent a night in New Jersey until September, and I've been here 3 times since then, and I like it. So thank you all for coming out. This is a great crowd. I'm going to start with a poem. Can you hear me okay? That could probably be the title of any of my poems. It's called There Must Be Music or Fear. When we are singing, we are in the midst of delight, and when we are not, we are not. Silence hangs a skinned bell, slit tongue displayed on ice, the raw message of entrails composedly about. In the leisurely steaming that breaks out, we could warm our hands for a moment before thinking about that particular form of radiator. The gasped verse alone in the shower when the heat goes, washing up next to the head of a ghost. It is singing that keeps us in tune, or not. I have a series of short poems that are all grouped together under the group title, Silly Love Songs. I'm going to read a few of those. Kiss. Well, of course, she says, of course your missives gusted like tumbleweeds across the ghost town of my life, you fucking slob, you big fat nerve. Then she sweetly cuts a melon down the middle and takes the dripping red chunks out to the garden, the one full of food, flowers, and guests. Riding shotgun down the avalanche. Faster, she kept saying, much farther and faster. The sunflower soared and cast no shadow. The anomaly of the anemone that never came up. More, she would chant, like a warrior, like a pony given the green light to a cloven foot, tail forked and spinning the wigged air. Harder, she spat, than lava much later, the impenetrable core of anything cooled beyond cold. Tastier, she kept saying, much further and tastier. What you think of me. Each night, she says, each night I peel away the bandage that held everything seen and turn it into something radiant and bold like an orange. Then I turn away. Then I turn into something cold and gradient like silt from a riverbank or anything wearing away. You know this, she says, yet you care like an atlas. Big. The ties that blind. I loved him like a brother, let him place the gun in my mouth, a sign of trust, the family doctor's tongue depressor, a mother's all-day sucker, a propeller hovering, just that tiny flick above the heart. Read one more of these short poems. This book's sort of been described as taking place at the junction of desire and despair, memory and mortality, and this particular poem, I think, lives right at that intersection. It's called Isn't Here. Your singular laugh sounded like too many. Your split lips practice the kiss they won't remember, the way lemons score the board before and after cutting. Tension puckers any parting score. Sometimes you flash by mirrors, tangled hair tide parted, and I remember seaweed, the salt of lasting, briny blast of love midair. Okay. I'm going to read a longer poem now, but it's in sections, but it's one poem, not several poems. It's called two coasts, the sea beside. And I'll just pause briefly between each section. What he told her and why. Standing hard scrubbed on the verge of free, clean as a baby's bum, a seed, a whistle, down frothing the air, reprieve's milky shake. Scree tumbled near cliffs decorated with fish. Birds scavenge the fabulous bits. Dunned by water and wind, patiently giving away what can't be redeemed. The release of beating waves with your fists. Whoever stands beside the ocean can be applauded for standing at all. Taking on Earth's debt, boulders spewed like dice in the horrific music of creation. Two forgotten bodies cleave sand and shiver, in deep, once rocking, putting back that part of the ocean they don't need. He looks for light from the leaning tent. The Atlantic hauls itself up and hurls its curse against that huddled shore, cards and brandy brandished as totems. If it was her birthday still, if the shore didn't crave its own niche in affection, if time couldn't harbor regret. On her side, the pockmarked faces of rocks, the mooned tide pools of the Pacific. Anemones close in on themselves, clusters clinging to rock as if to grace. She walks out to smell the sea or rain, pretends it's something in between, bits of salt and a wind that won't quit. There, where seagoers grow. He hopes to resurrect himself the way low tide transforms this island to a peninsula, sweet light veering off to dusk. Waves gone deaf against a garrulous shore. So we had an election recently. I don't know if you're aware of that, but I'm sure that several candidates have already begun organizing for the next one. So tonight I'd like to throw my hat into the ring. This is a poem entitled Candidate. It was a big car with a strange person, and I didn't know why. There were lights hammering down and offers of candy and pictures of people I wanted to know. It might have been dumb, but I went. I was 14 and naked, really. I had directions, but no one knew where to find me. It would sound good if it was raining, but it was bright and quiet as looming. Kiss me, pig. Take me places. Make me as big as a silent ocean or the one that rolls in sometimes. Give me the fat, percussive bird with his incessant drums, the resurgent heartbeat of the recurring numb. I'm as likely as any. This poem is entitled Stay. And I think at this point I should just state that I grew up in Wisconsin in a family with 2 boys, 2 girls. My father was an accountant and my mother was a homemaker, and there was no dysfunction whatsoever in our family. So whenever you hear I in any of these poems, it's most likely not me, okay? But if it's you, then you may want to, look inside and consider. Stay, with an epigraph by David Bowie. That's what I meant to say. Because I can't spell damp and stupid, I won't. Do know a bit about locomotion, Cupid in a roller coaster masquerading as the bus, and all love's children buddied up to boot. Express wheels flashing in the bituminous sun. Propped for the next stop, you believed we had fingers in order to hold hands and testified to such all day long. Tearing off inclement tokens, he loves me not. You clutched and clung until I couldn't tell the difference between hug and hell. Who could remain the night but not spend any of it, as if promised to is the same as? Nobody's dancing. Well, anyway, just so you don't think it's all dark in this book, I'm going to read a poem that's full of bad puns and misguided attempts at humor. And most of the poems in this book were published in journals. No one ever published this. But I harbor an affection for it, so hopefully you will as well. It's called Proposal. I'm so tired of being turned down, bidden heart rising like a clerk straight off to its job, while the bells all clamor on a streetcar named Detour. I see us running down a road toward the horizon, the perfect speck spun into the air at the edge of a great cloudless forever. You've got your tensions, and I've got my intentions. Between us, there's a barrel of inspiration gone awry. You tell me that sometimes when you hold my hand, it swells and you're afraid. But that's a color that can be changed, the way fear can turn with the tide and become best friends. Nothing scares me anymore. The freeway may take its toll, and I don't know if these goosebumps on my arms are Disney or what. But they're a wonder, and so are you. Let's do it. This next poem, the father of one of my closest friends was a Holocaust survivor. His name is Ike Burstein, and he actually lives in Mattawan. I don't think he's here, but he actually gave a lecture here last week. But when he was asked what he remembered of, the day that he woke up and realized that the Germans had left and he was free, he spoke, what are the last lines of this poem? But this poem is not about him or my father, but it's called My Father's Hands Are Warm. You wear your father's half-moon shirt, the faintly scented remains of a man who never worked a day in his life that he didn't somehow come to regret. You have to remember the remembering before it gives out. It could be the last thing you do. No luminosity like the present. Your father held his head up until the very end, then asked for water. Didn't finish. You hold the glass up to his forehead, force the remembering through. It was cold. It was snowing. It was February. So I have a habit of writing my own epigraphs. I don't know why, but it brings me pleasure. So this is one that has that. Every week, he wants to be better. I'm still erasing the memory of your black tongue, the way you thrilled me off and on, leaving me no if only I could keep up with. Celery talks, but you have to listen so hard to hear it will kill you. Christmas Eve, he dreams of things his mother might have taught him, but she is stubborn and mute as cheese before mold grabs hold. Pungency sprung into the air like a handful of rancid birds unleashed from a blind of idiots, or worse. Here, the sudden champ on the rind, spitting out the clabber in his father's foreign basement with its piles of Look magazine girls, shoulders exposed, the sullen hampers of dirty men's clothes, the incendiary ripeness of tripping about a VW van with the friends of a wished-for brother. With the pilot light back in the stove, he relishes the menace one can bring from oneself, cooks up something slow and forgets it. Everything's better a day later, and the whole time he ladled soup, he apologized to no one there, large-mouthed, hungering, subdued by fear's hard dominion. I'm going to read a couple of new poems that aren't in the book. The first one is called, At Some Point, in Order to Hide, Connor Oberst Will Grow a Beard. When brave brushes against abrasive, you get tested. Bow, curtsy, elbow, see you later. Bump and run, Coke and rum. You'd like to even things before skin palls in the burgeoning light. After a night when they offer to fuck you up, then drop you off. It's a livery service, it's love. It'll take me 6 gins to catch up. You're wearing that halo again, the one that leaves me feeling a gimp, stuttering and blind, a grope in need of a steady hand. But don't blame yourself. It's my voracious need for reciprocity that's led to this late-night Conan drum, where you don't so much as flinch when I turn the light on you and your naked friend. Cactus oozing sap like Vermont maple when the weather turns, blooming into a boisterous, out-of-season turkey. Oh, for a balcony. The sweet corniness of launching over the edge to change the dross to gloss, and everything becomes clear when you finally walk out the door. Sapphires are always purer than what goes against the grain. I should start temping again. Sometimes I think we should blame Art Carney for everything. No, not him. The other guy on Gleason, the drinker, who talked to Joe the bartender so sweetly and never once forgot to pay a bill. Eventually. That will be the only time Connor Oberst and Art Carney make an appearance on the same stage.
Push the envelope. Think outside the box. Win-win.
I won't read it in that voice. They are making pygmy iced tea. It's wrong and sad, but plenty of people line up to drink it. Dunk me, they say, flashing primal pelts, grunting in their interpretation of ignored and exploited natives. Hey, don't grimace. It's real, like TV, and could lead to something. No one mentions that there haven't been Aborigines in Nebraska since, well, ever. But the vitamin water people are doing really, really well. The corn oil engine display is attracting an extensive crowd, and the Vietnamese spring rolls are surpassing previous pork-style sales. So, if certain people might have lost their job when the tractor factory closed down, then who could blame them, especially if appropriately sized, for impersonating someone else? What better way to express American than by embracing another culture, pressing the water out of it, and getting paid? Two more. First one is entitled Parade. I am singing in a field and it is cold. Last night, I wished the new year would hurry out and I could get on with this. This morning, my mother called, and at the end of the hour told me each January is a fresh start. I am in a cold field, and it is singing. Last week, it snowed in Texas, and if there is a shovel trade, it boomed. This afternoon, it was warm underneath, and bones were dancing to a transient's lullaby. There is singing in a field, and I am cold. Tomorrow, under the bandstand, they will present their awards, and the music will flow like fuel from a broken tank. I will watch from my hiding place, a hat full of matches, a pocket full of holes. I will say a quick prayer and send the whole thing sky high. Good night. Goodbye. Which would be an appropriate place to stop, but I'm not going to because I've got 3 minutes yet, which is just how long this poem takes. This is the title poem, Gone and Gone. We meet, as always, on the corner of dusk and dark, and against that soubretish tablet we step off in search of the invisible night that lurks inside darkness like a well-kept secret or a lie. Wherever we are becomes a carnival, a fair of the heart with sidling glances at lust. We knock down all the bottles with one throw and are given a bear so big we want to find someone to give it to. There can be such hard waking, an ache inside every evening, an ash to be raked at dawn. But right now, if the streets cry out at the awful crush and grind, we'll pick up more achievers, new acquaintances of longing, and hold them to us like limbs, like borrowed air, as we answer the siren call. In the shadows where nothing is, redeemed, we romance on, each shot getting easier to take on, put back, shove off. We approach from every way, but never arrive. Across the street, the light goes red. Who are they trying to stop? Suddenly, we realize that like a person who has seen more than ever happened, we are back where we began, on the corner of dark and dawn, elbows locked in, clutching the prize of all those hours before. Sometimes whole dreams come back, like the chorus at the end of a song or the sound of a cricket trapped in the same field every night. Its fevered rush toward the rest that comes with light. We open our mouths to sing, and there is such crying to wake the world, the humming of all-night diners and laundromats will have to stop. The wailing surges up the avenue like a brutish street cleaning. We're parading the discordant lullaby, the cacophony of this world and its creatures. Our companions fallen away. I turn into dawn's early dissonance after dragging all night from one face to another these unbearable remains of a gift. Everyone knows where they're going until they're gone. Thank you.
Family and friends can provide the support you need to reduce your risk of cancer, diabetes, heart disease, and stroke. Eat right and get active.
I get to help hardworking families realize their dream of owning a home.
I am part of a team that ensures top quality, luxury, and safety to drivers all over the tri-state area.
I get to live my dream every day working in my own restaurant.
I get to enlighten the community, but in particular the Black community, about our contribution to art and culture in this society.
I got my start at Brookdale.
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 Aren't you gonna kiss me?
I gotta go.
Nobody likes to kiss an ashtray.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me in the back? Great. Thanks so much to Brookdale Community College for having me here this evening, and to Suzanne Parker, and to the fabulous Creative Writing Club here. Yay for the Creative Writing Club. I'm honored to be here. And I have to tell you that, as Suzanne mentioned, the poems that I'm about to read are born of a tragedy, the loss of my daughter, the murder of my daughter in 2003 at the hands of an ex-boyfriend. She was strangled with a telephone cord. So some of the poems were hard to write. Some of them are hard to hear. But if you stick with me, we'll emerge on the other side with some justice and some hope. The first poem is called Death Barged In. In his Russian greatcoat, slamming open the door with an unpardonable bang, and he has been here ever since. He changes everything, rearranges the furniture. His hand hovers by the phone. He will answer now, he says. He will be the answer. Tonight, he sits down to dinner at the head of the table as we eat, mute. Later, he climbs into bed between us. Even as I sit here, he stands behind me, clamping two colossal hands on my shoulders, and bends down and whispers to my neck, "From now on, you write about me." Everyone who has experienced loss, whether through violence or not, remembers how he or she first heard the news, how you found out. And this poem is called How to Find Out. After you call her again and again on her home phone, and your intention, like a mouse in a snake's belly, swells the wire as it runs from one pole to another, and still she doesn't answer. After you call her on her cell phone and summon a satellite network to assist, to bounce your voice from your house to a floating point in space to her house, and still she doesn't answer. After you leave many messages, and your husband leaves messages, and your sister leaves messages, and anxiety flits over and around you. Ignore it. She is an adult now. Wait a day. First, leave a final message. We are going to drive up there right now, young lady, if you don't call us back in 15 minutes. And then start driving in a hard rain, You and Dave, and when you get to skip back, your cell phone will ring and someone will say she was just spotted working her nursing shift on the hospital floor. Laugh and turn the car around then, a ton of relief barreling back down Route 73. When you get home, call the hospital just to make sure. Her supervisor will say, no, she's not here. She hasn't shown up for work in 2 days. This is the time for your throat to thicken, for your fingers to get rubbery, for you to call the police and say, please, please go to her apartment, and if it's locked, please knock down the door. Now you and your husband and sister and her husband must jump into his car and drive so fast you might crash. Hold your husband's hand hard, but do not look at him. Do not look him in the eyes until one of you says, Jesus, I have to go to the bathroom. And all 4 of you run into a diner somewhere. And as the patrons look up, charge into the restroom and pee hard so you don't wet your clothes later, and take a moment to dry heave a little into the toilet, but not too much. There's no time. Pull up onto her street, jump out of the moving car as your brother-in-law parks it, run past police cars, ambulance, all the silent people sitting on curbs, gathered on porches, their arms folded, waiting for you, the parents to arrive. The chief of police, poised behind the yellow tape, will spread his long arms to you, his palms outward. This is it, your very own Annunciation. Try to be thoughtful. Don't make the poor man say it. See how human he is. He has children of his own. It is your job to ask, is she dead? And he will nod and say yes. And now he can never not nod. And now he can never say no. And now he can never not say yes. This poem is entitled What People Give You. Long-faced irises, mums, pink roses and white roses and giant sunflowers and hundreds of daisies. Fruit baskets with muscular pears and water crackers and tiny jams and the steady march of casseroles. And money. People give money these days. Cards, of course. The Madonna, wise and sad, just for you, Chinese cherry blossoms, sunsets and moonscapes, and dragonflies for transcendence. People stand by your sink and offer up their pain. Did you know I lost a baby once? Or my eldest son was killed. Or my mother died 2 months ago. People are good. They file into your cartoon house until it bows at the seams. They give you every blessed thing, everything, except your daughter back. All of us who have experienced loss have things that we wish had not been said to us. People are good, and they try so hard. And what an unenviable position to be in, trying to comfort someone who's just experienced great loss. And I think it is remarkable how eloquent people are and how they rise to the occasion. But sometimes they don't rise so high to the occasion. And this poem is called What Not to Say. Don't say that you choked on a chicken bone once and then make the sound, and say you bet that's how she felt. Don't ask in horror why we cremated her. And when I stand in the receiving line like Jackie Kennedy without the pillbox hat, if Jackie were fat and had taken enough Klonopin to still an ox, and you whisper, I think of you every day, don't finish with, because I've been going to Weight Watchers on Tuesdays and wonder if you want to go too. Yes, someone said that. Yes, she did. This poem's about my sister. My sister is my hero. She came to visit us every single day. Well, she called or came to visit every single day for a year after my daughter died. And so I tell people that she is not just my sister, she is my best friend. And she tells people that her best friend is someone named Ann Scholl, her friend from college. Yeah, so, yeah. This poem is called Kidney Stone. My daughter was murdered, and God, like a hack, cannot let it be for a while in its Shakespearean elegance to shimmer and twang like a dagger thrust into wood. So now I have a kidney stone, too, a big one. And they are whisking me into a green operating room at Holy Redeemer Hospital, where a sinewy little Jesus sags on a crucifix on the wall. But first, afraid on the litter, I say to my sister, what if I don't wake up from the anesthesia? And she presses my hand and says, no, don't even think that way. You are not that lucky. Yes, she did. She did say that. I understood it too. It made perfect sense to me. I read this poem now every time I read from this book because I tried hard to tell the truth in the book, and this is a part of the truth. And the poem is called Confessions. Confessions. Don't pity me. I was too lazy to walk up the stairs to tuck her in at night. When I brushed her hair, I pulled hard on purpose. And always the sharp, plaintive edge on the rim of the spoon of my giving. This poem is called Swooping. It's about my sister again, my best friend, and a homicide detective named Joseph Morano. At least that's his name in this book. And yes, and you should know that Johnny Early is the pseudonym of the man who murdered my daughter. Swooping. My sister says maybe Johnny Early will try to run from the courtroom. And Detective Joseph Morano, who should have his own TV show, will pull out his gun and shoot him and then swoop her into his arms. There will be no swooping, I say, unamused. Think of your husband. But I am thinking of mine, who says that I can have anything I want that might please me. And I say, okay, I want to have an affair, or I want a teacup chihuahua. And my husband says, yes, all right, maybe the affair, because dogs are a lot of work. I'm not a person who goes around looking for miracles. I don't find, or at least I didn't find so much synchronicity in the universe that I needed to reflect on it or tell folks about it. But I have to say that ladybugs have become a sacred symbol for my family. For obvious reason. I'll read this poem. It's called Birthday Poem. It is our dead daughter's birthday. Her name was Leidy, pronounced Lady. We adopted her from Chile. Her nickname when she was little was Ladybug. I sit in a dining room chair and cry hard while my neck bends in increments until my forehead touches the table. People are waiting for us at her favorite restaurant, and my husband says, finally, "Kathy, it's time to go," as he reaches his hand into his pocket for his car keys and pulls it out again, a live ladybug resting there. As you can tell from a poem that I read previously, Johnny Early was arrested. My daughter was murdered in 2003. He was arrested in November of 2004, and he was tried a year later, 2005. This poem is called Church of Justice. Guilty, say the jurors. We gasp and sigh and hug and weep just like on TV. We walk down the aisle and a woman waits in the hallway for me. She says my name. I have studied her, Johnny Early's mother, and despise her, and the son she carried, and the Bible she carries. She says, I am so sorry. Suddenly, she is tiny. She has a tooth missing from the bottom row. She holds out her arms, and what can I do? What? But hug her back, my truest other sister. She says, I am so sorry. And this last poem is called Poem About Light. And it's the last poem in the book. You can try to strangle light, use your hands and think you found the throat of it, but you haven't. You could use a rope or a garrote or a telephone cord, but the light, amorphous, implacable, will make a fool of you in the end. You could make it your mission to shut it out forever, to crouch in the dark, the blinds pulled tight. Still, in the morning, a gleaming little ray will betray you, poking its optimistic finger through a corner of the blind, and then more light, clever, nervy, impossible, spilling out from the crevices, warming the shade. This is the stubborn sun, choosing to rise like it did yesterday, like it will tomorrow. You have nothing to do with it. The sun makes its own history. Light has its way. Thank you.